Welcome back to this third installment of this series on making a Space Blaster game in Scratch. In the previous two videos, we got the core functionality of the game working after a bit of debugging. And in this video, we're going to program a MicroBit to serve as the controller for our game. In order to program a MicroBit, you first need to connect it to your computer. I won't go over the detailed steps required, but feel free to check out the MicroBit video that I made in the card on screen to see just that. I already have Scratch Link running and Bluetooth on my computer, so all I need to do is add the MicroBit extension to the project. So I'm going to go over here to the bottom left of Scratch, and I'm going to add the MicroBit extension. And you can see that it already detects my MicroBit because everything I just mentioned is on. So I could select the device and click Connect, and I'm connected. I just saw a little check mark on the MicroBit. So what I want to do is I want to program the A button to act as the left arrow key and the B button to act as the right arrow key. And because there isn't a third button, I'm probably going to have this thing tilt and act as the space key. So now let's bring in the when A button is pressed and when B button is pressed. So I have to make sure that B is going to be to the right and A is going to be to the left. Everything else is going to be the same, so I'm just going to duplicate the code from the left side to the right side. Now right now we don't have the space key working, but let's test this out first. When I click on the green flag, I should be able to control my broom using the MicroBit. And as you can see, it's actually working. When I'm clicking on left and right, there is no space key yet. I can't control the broom using the MicroBit. Alright, now it looks like it is not moving as far as I want it to go when I'm clicking on the MicroBit, because it's a little bit tougher to click on these MicroBit buttons. So I should edit my code so maybe it changes X by 25 when I use the MicroBit instead of 15 when I use my arrow keys, because it's a lot easier to press arrow keys than it is to press these little tiny buttons on this controller. Let me press go again, and that feels a little bit better. Okay, so let me just lose here. And now let's program the space key. So I'm going to go over to the basketball sprite. And what I did was when the space key was pressed, I created a clone of myself. Let's see. Oh, here we go, when tilted. So if we tilt this backwards, I want to represent that as the space key. So I want to duplicate and make a clone. So now when I restart the game, I should be able to move and fire the basketballs by tilting the MicroBit backwards. So that's pretty cool. Now that we have our MicroBit as a controller, let's enhance our game by providing the player and the computer with 3 lives and then figure out how to display the number of lives on the MicroBit itself. So let's create 2 variables to store the number of lives that the player and the computer have at the start of the game. So let's go over to the variables palette. And let's name these 2 variables player lives left. And I'm going to create another one and name it computer lives left. In the basketball, we'll keep track of how many lives the computer has left. And in the apple, we'll keep track of how many lives the player has left. So let's focus on the basketball for just a second. We have to make sure that when the basketball hits the bat, that we decrease the number of lives that the computer has by 1. So what I can do is I can bring in a change computer lives left variable by not 1, but by -1. And whenever the basketball touches the bat, the computer's life will decrease by 1. Now the problem right now is that as written, it's still going to end the game right after that happens. So I have to bring in another conditional, and I have to make sure that I only say that the broom won and that the game should be over when the number of computer lives left equals 0. So let me go over to my variables, and I want to make sure that the number of computer lives left has to equal 0 before the game says that it's over. So this conditional hopefully should work. So now if I test this, I should see the bat. Well, hold on one second. The bat definitely should not have lost right there. That was a little bit too quick. So let me go to my variables palette and show how many computer lives left exist. And we see that it's at -4. So that might not seem right. Let me just rerun the game. Let me move this over here. Let me rerun the game, and we see computer lives left equals 3, which looks correct. Let me try to hit it with just 1 basketball, and it looks like it decreased the computer lives by 3 in one shot. So what's probably happening is, as the basketball is touching the bat, it probably decreases the number of computer lives left a little bit too quickly. But maybe what I can do is to add a wait block after the computer lives left has decreased by -1. Let's just slow this down by 0.3 of a second, so that we don't move on to the conditional or go back to changing the number of computer lives for at least 0.3 of a second. So let me play this game again. So we hopefully can't decrease the score faster than 0.3 of a second. That didn't work. What happened was the basketball hung exactly where it was. You see it? And it decreased the number of computer lives a little bit too quickly. So let me stop the game and let's come up with a different solution. Let me remove that wait block because that's not going to work. I wonder exactly how much the basketball is bringing down the computer's life when it touches the bat. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to the broom and I'm going to set the player's life equal to 100 and the computer's life equal to 100 also. And the problem is I just have to avoid getting hit by apples. So you know what I'll do? I'll remove the apple firing functionality by taking out this forever block, and let's just test this out. So right now my bat should move, but it shouldn't fire apples. And let's see how much it goes down when it gets hit by a basketball. It went down by 4. Let me hit it with another one. Just missed. One more basketball, come on. It's kind of hard to test this out like this. Okay, so it went down by 2 this time. That's kind of interesting. So it's not consistent. Maybe it has to do with like where exactly the basketball touches the bat. And whoa, it went down a lot. It went down from like 96, 94, all the way down to 4. So it looks like it's happening really quickly. So I think what this means is that I should probably just leave it at 100 and let the game play as it is. But instead of checking to see if the number of computer lives equals 0, I should see if it's less than 0. Because if it's less than 0, then we know that the game should definitely be over. But I don't know, I'm just worried that in some case it might not hit 0, or it might just skip over it too quickly and the computer won't detect that the game should end and it'll just keep going. Let me try this one more time. Let me just fire off a lot of basketballs. So you see there was probably like 2 or 3 balls that hit it and it went from 100 down to 68. So and then went from 60 something to 29. So it's like kind of inconsistent. I'm not really understanding exactly how this works. But I think with this logic, it should work well enough. I guess I could try one more thing actually. Let me bring in that wait block again. Let me just try this. And let me put it after the conditional that checks to see if the number of computer lives is less than 0. Maybe if I wait here, let's wait 1/10 of a second, it won't hang the basketball for too long, but it won't have the score decrease by so many points. So let me try this out. I don't know if it'll work, but oh no, it's still hanging the basketball because it's not moving on. So I'm going to remove this wait block, and that didn't work. Now we need to bring in this similar functionality into the apple itself. So let me connect the forever block back. And what I want to make sure is that when the broom is touching the apple, we want to decrease the number of player lives left by -1. I don't really like calling it player lives. I should really just call it like player health points, but I'll leave this for now. And I placed it in the wrong spot. I have to make sure that I put that inside of the if touching broom block. And now I have to bring in that conditional to check to see if our score, or the number of player lives left, or really our health points like I mentioned, is less than 0. So let me go over to the variables palette and let's bring in the player lives left. And if it's less than 0, then the game should end. So now when I play the game, we both start with 100 and I just got hit and the game didn't end, so that looks good. And let me just get hit a few more times by the apple. And the game should eventually end. How many lives do I have? Let me just scroll all the way to the left. Let me enable that variable. I'm at 91 right now. Let me see if I can get hit by more apples. 88. Oh my gosh, what is happening? And I think that's because the broom is so thin that the apple doesn't spend much time touching it. So this is kind of like interesting. So I'm going to stop this game, and I guess what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my broom, and instead of having the player have 100 life points or health points, maybe I'll give it 12 or something. Maybe that'll feel a little bit more fair. So when I hit the bat with a bunch of basketballs, now what's happening? Oh no, okay, so I'm down to 5, and the broom finally wins. All right, so this is a little bit crazy. I had to like really debug this, and it's probably not perfect, but at least you get the idea of how you can go about changing your game and modifying it and tweaking it and testing it and making it work a little bit better. So let's do one final test. Let me hide the player life and the computer's life, and let me play it with the MicroBit. So I hope this series was helpful if you watched all 3 episodes, and I hope you enjoyed it also.